when have we ever mastered something or phenomenal the first time we ever did it? And so that's natural that you're going to feel that way because it's the first time. It's not something you're very good at, you're competent at. And so over time, through tenacity and pushing through that discomfort, you get better and better. So my name is Edwin Bai. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist practicing in California. I am geographically located in Orange County, but with the advent of virtual work, all of California is open up to us. So yeah, seeing adults primarily in California virtually, and yeah, you can visit my website at therapyed.com and reach out through there. And in terms of the types of work and types of population I work with, I do a lot of trauma therapy. I'm a certified EMDR therapist. That stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing, for those who don't know. And I am Gottman trained, and that's through the Gottman Institute, and that's couples therapy, and any host of other issues that stem from attachment wounds and relationship issues. So yeah, and I myself am Korean American, second gen, born of immigrant parents, and yeah, definitely trying to integrate cultural competency, taking into consideration cultural and diversity issues, especially in the climate that we have right now. There's a lot that is needed there, and I'm really loving the movement, destigmatization of therapies, with our BIPOC community. And so, yeah, and AAPI specifically too. So yeah, I am here to help educate, help support, and be there. Moving into even doing like webinars or seminars, talks and presentations as well. Our work in the context of like mental health, developing understanding and insight. It's my belief personally, like in the framework of like my therapeutic understanding and philosophy, that understanding helps to create healing. And so if you can do whatever you can do to have that for yourself, whether that is therapy, reading books, seeking mentorship, counseling, any of that sort, that's self work right there. It doesn't have to be on your own, right? It can be in conjunction with other people because we are social creatures. So, that is work that you're doing for yourself. And not only that, because through my education, we're called to be systemic thinkers. And we hear that word a lot, systemic issues and all that. So how we describe it, at least in my field, we're all individuals who are part of systems, right? A part of systems, various systems, whether family, friends, education, culture, society, right? Religious, and at all, right? And so it's being self-healing in those spaces as well, by having those systems also heal as well. And that's the wonderful brave work that people step into when they're doing self-healing, because you essentially become like agents of change within those places. So yeah, just that's part of self-healing, as well as I think there is like actual self-healing that happens. Like with EMDR therapy, we have this perspective of the adaptive information processing system that we have, right? Where essentially it talks about how our minds and our bodies are all equipped wonderfully to, take care of ourselves so that we can prolong our life. If you think about it in like an adaptive process model, you having trauma has actually been a self-healing kind of activation mode, where I believe it keeps you safe from that moment on, avoiding and being wary of certain situations or stimuli that cause that trauma in the first place. And so like and then after some time it's realizing, oh, I don't need this process anymore. I don't need to avoid this location. I don't need to avoid this person or group anymore. Right? I don't need that's it, I'm in a safe place. And so it's a process of letting go of that, and then putting some of that to rest. And so yeah, just we have wonderful adaptability, and have defense systems in protecting us and keeping us safe. Now, the other part of that question of my own self-healing journey and my approaches specifically. I mean, I personally have you know I would say family. I say that with a little bit of hesitancy, because family can be a big source of pain as well. And so my journey has been one with both of those, for sure, of a lot of healing and pain. Yet that's uh, you know part of that healing journey. I believe can't heal something if there's no wounds. So there's family, friendships, personal relationships, my faith, and just my own personal active participation in my own personal development, whether that be my own education, right? That's been very, very healing. I think it gave me language to what I was experiencing when in the past I didn't. And then yeah, like books and podcasts, and ultimately getting to a place where I'm realizing there's a need of a balance between self improvement and self acceptance, and realizing that I'm getting eventually to a place where self acceptance is appropriate in certain areas. So that has been kind of my journey and what I've incorporated to have that self healing experience. I like to have a lot of the foundational things in place. It's kind of just like a building theory that you can't really build on things that don't have a solid foundation. And so, not to say that clients have to walk in already with like the solid place to build up from, or that in therapy you're going to have everything figured out and then like these foundational things figured out and then build up. It's just there are certain tenets to therapy that I personally believe, and I like have it on my social media page, you know uh talking about these things. But it's, I think, to help people on healing journeys is the understanding of personally, are you taking care of yourself, and with like sleep, um diet, exercise, and who are your social supports. And of course those things can be inhibited, uh and that's why you're coming in the first place, and that's kind of the work that we got to do at the end of the day. At the same time, recognizing those things need to be in place. And then of course the basic tenets of like meeting clients where they're at, where if they're not ready to develop those social supports, or they're not really at a place where they can improve their through exercise and stuff, regardless of what other reasons. It's acknowledging that, and honoring that where they're at, and then of course walking with them in that place, and validating, normalizing, and challenging, because gotta lead people into discomfort, and juxtapose that with the safety and security through various techniques, grounding and calming skills and stuff. All of that being supported by the therapeutic relationship. And so, at the end of the day, I've got to make sure that my client feels as if I'm a good fit for them, and really trusts and believes that I am for them, and that there's just this unconditional positive regard for them, right? That doesn't mean I'm going to be Mr. Nice Guy all this time, right? Like I said, I'll challenge them, and because we need to be in a place that disrupts that homeostasis, the normality of things. Gottman, I've had some extensive training on it, so there's definitely a lot of concepts used there to help support people in relationships, whether that's platonic or romantic. So yeah, I think there are a lot of concepts here that can be generalized to a lot of relationships, and then just in general of like how we think and operate. And so like IFS with like parts work, that's very heavy work in EMDR therapy at times, and our inner child metaphors, so powerful. And then DBT, I mean, goodness, like it's just the few concepts that I pull from there, of just being able to balance the gray, and not just be binary of like ones and zeros, fair, unfair, yes, no, good and bad. It's, there's more variability there, and how to have more cognitive and behavioral flexibility. I mean, goodness gracious, the list goes on. Like attachment theory, I think that is how I understand how we kind of formulate our how like our philosophy or modus operandum of relationships in our adulthood based upon our relationships and our early development. So ultimately being a systemic thinker and an eclectic therapist, I believe, like you mentioned, being able to be flexible and flow with the clients, and bring up what is appropriate, not just shoving what we believe is right down their throat, right? Meeting them where they're at. Self-healing, developing insight, and then getting comfortable with discomfort, and then eventually self-acceptance. Insight, like I said, through understanding, believe that gets us through the healing journey, or like it sets us on the path of that self-healing journey, and it helps us to make these connections and linkages, and oftentimes brings empathy, even almost, for that inner child, or for that parent who fell short in our eyes, or that person that wronged us or caused trauma in our hearts and our experiences. Putting ourselves outside of ourselves and thinking like, hey, where does this come from? There's probably a story behind this. That old adage of like, be kind to others, because we don't know the various battles that they're going through. And so yeah, just that insight and understanding, and grayness, I think, helps. And then being comfortable with discomfort, like disrupting the norm and what we thought was appropriate. Like there's another post that I saw online where it talked about like setting boundaries. If you're not used to setting boundaries, it might feel like you're being aggressive, or if you are not used to asking for your needs, you might feel that you're being too needy, or what you're comfortable with. That's not a very good indicator of what is like appropriate and healthy. So like it's challenging ourselves, and getting used to things that make us uncomfortable. I think one of like the best examples of this for me personally is like whenever I learn a new skill, or like a new hobby, and it's in front of people, or like if it's like a sport, or like a what is it, like a creative hobby or something like that, and people are to observe it, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so uncomfortable. Like you feel so anxious, and less than, that you're not good enough, like it's like, should I even be doing this, right? And you feel it's like so silly, yet you push through that. And of course, because of course that's going to be the case. You're when have we ever master something, or phenomenal the first time we ever did it? And so it's that's natural that you're going to feel that way, because it's the first time. It's not something you're very good at, you're competent at. And so over time, through tenacity and pushing through that discomfort, you get better and better. And then eventually, like I said, self-acceptance, because you can't always be growing, you can't always be developing. There are times where plateaus, or being okay with where you're at is necessary. And it's from there that you might fail. I don't say failure is a bad thing. You might not reach that certain goal that you want, and then it's from there you get to learn all over again, and be uncomfortable all over again, and then relish in those situations, as opposed to crumble and be broken about it, right? So yeah, I think that is just, in a sense, a summation of like what I believe that journey of life and healing, and is continue on that path. And it's going to get uncomfortable, and it's amazing because you are going to be the agent of change. You might not change your family or your current circumstances per se, yet it will set the tone for generations to come. That it, like, there's this beautiful image where it's like they're talking down, and it's like grandpa and then dad like is screaming at dad, and then dad is screaming at you, and then you don't scream, and it stops there at your, like, another child, or like a smaller version, or whoever that is, right? So yeah, you just get to stop that chain of pain, essentially. Oh, actually, no, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that like that. We say like intergenerational trauma or whatever, but whatever support is needed, hopefully, you'll find a therapist that will be sensitive to those things. So yeah, just keep at it, and good luck. And you can reach me out to me through thetherapyed.com, or at edwin@thetherapyed.com. Everything has thetherapyed.com. Like, even on Instagram is the therapyed. So yeah, thank you so much for the time to talk about these ones.